Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the first DASA Enterprise Leadership Forum global event we organize today. And we have a great turnout today. I think we have more than 270 people who registered for this morning session at 9 a.m. CET. And for this afternoon at 4 p.m. CET, we have similar amount of people who registered, which is great, awesome. So we're looking forward to share a lot of things with you today. But before we do that, and I'll introduce all the other great speakers we have in the lineup, I'll just say a few things about myself and what the idea behind this event was, and introduce to you the other team members that will host today's session. I'm Rik Farenhorst. I started as one of the founding members of DASA a bit more than 4 years ago. At that time, I was a consultant and trainer in Agile and DevOps related topics. And I found that while these principles behind DevOps were picking up speed and were very helpful for many companies, that in the community and in the literature, there was lacking some kind of more comprehensive model that helped create a common frame of reference and some guidance for people, specialists, but also organizations. So I helped in my capacity, together with a few other bright minds, to build the DASA Competence framework. We defined a number of key principles that came to known as being the DASA DevOps principles, and this helped us to basically build the DASA ecosystem that we'll share more about in a minute. I also helped develop some courseware, and then in 2018, Dimitri and Deborah asked me to also help grow the worldwide community that was taking shape. We already saw many people as specialists to dive into DASA and like it a lot. We also saw many organizations struggle with doing DevOps transformations, and we thought it would be interesting and very good if also more managers and enterprise leaders would join strengths and would connect to each other. And therefore we came up with what is called the Enterprise Leadership Forum, which is a community-driven initiative where leaders, formal and informal leaders worldwide, can connect to each other and share basically stories from the trenches. Because let's not all reinvent the wheel, right? So in that capacity, as chair of the Enterprise Leadership Forum, I'm happy to have this first global event that we organize. But before we go to the agenda and all the other cool stuff, let me first give the floor to Deborah, who has been with DASA from the start as well. Deborah Burton, could you share a few things about yourself?
Yes, hello, Rik. Good morning, everybody. It is, needless to say, a pleasure to be here. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Deborah Burton. I'm currently the CEO of Instruct. But before those days, some of you may know that I worked with entrepreneurs for many years, and I have a long, rich career in IT, over 20 plus years at Hewlett Packard when the whole ITIL thing was happening. I had my own company, a full service distribution company worldwide with my husband, who I met among my travels with Hewlett Packard. And then once we stopped that, I joined Entrepreneurs as their channel marketing manager. And then I became involved in the ventures that they were doing, like the Lean IT Association, where we were original founders, where we developed a competence model. And we also developed a certification program. And while we were doing that, we also had our eye on the DevOps market. And we saw that DevOps was emerging as being the new service development methodology that was out there. And there was no body of knowledge. No one was really looking at how do you get your DevOps teams ready. And I had the privilege of being the marketing manager that launched DASA. And DASA came together based by the work of the Xavier group at the time, where Rik was in charge of the IT architects and ITpreneurs, and Dimitri, who had this fabulous channel of worldwide global partners that they were working with, and Quint Wellington Redwood. And together we put together the competence model that allowed people to look at skill and knowledge development. And being the marketing manager launching that, that was an amazing experience for me. But that was in 2017. I became the managing director of DASA, and together had the privilege of globetrotting around the world, talking to so many people about skills and knowledge development and the DevOps way of working. But the one thing that rung true to me, and why I was so excited to become the CEO of Instruct, was that everywhere I went, and I think Dimitri can attest to this, and I'm sure Rik can as well, that at the end of the day, no matter what I talked about, people still asked me about the tools. They said, what about the tools, Deborah? What tools should we be using? How do we put it together? So when I saw the Instruct platform, which is a platform that focuses on a different challenge-driven learning by actually doing in real technology, I was super excited, because for me, I saw the connection of the need in the market in terms of the real knowledge and skills in the DevOps way of working, but also an innovative way of bringing IT engineers a way to learn quickly, efficiently, and a modern way to do the DevOps transformation. So I'm super excited to be here today with all of you, and I really hope that you enjoy this session. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Deb. Dimitri, not last but definitely not least, not only a founding member, but also DASA's managing director right now. Could you share a few things?
Absolutely, Rik, and thanks for the quick intro. And it's such a pleasure being here with you, and of course, Deborah, all the experts in front of us, and probably as important today. I mean, so many participants at this exciting event. I'm first of all happy to see that we have, as Rik said, close to 300 participants signed up for the morning, and another batch of close to 300 for the afternoon session. So it demonstrates for me the importance of sharing stories from the trenches, as Rik states. And for me, I mean, this forum and this global gathering has already provided, I mean, relevance and importance. So I'm one of the founding partners of DASA, and in the first year I supported the DASA team to expand all over the world, global expansion with partners and meetups, and getting our beautiful products and story out there. And it's with great pleasure that I took over the role of managing director from Deborah, as many of you know. And it's also good to be in the footsteps of such a fantastic predecessor. So on the ELF, I think the objective to support each other by sharing stories and learnings, I think that's very important and resonating. And also over the years, many partners have asked me to share examples of how other enterprises are doing things or adopting things or working with DASA. And well, this is a fantastic global starting point to get the team started around the world. So I'm very excited. Heading back to you, Rik and team, and I wish all of us a fantastic event in front of us. So
okay, thanks, Dimitri. Yeah, but then we will quickly move to the next slide, and I'll start with some housekeeping rules. For those of you who might wonder, yes, we will record this session so you can re-listen to it later on. We'll also share the slides, so you don't need to keep making notes in a frantic way. Just sit back and relax, I would say. We have a great agenda for you, which brings us to the next slide. We have like I said, 2 sessions, one at the moment and one in the afternoon. For the morning session, after this quick welcome and introductions, we'll have Dimitri explaining to us why he is so proud, and we all are very proud in what we accomplished over the past 4 years. So it's a little bit celebration time there. We then, even more exciting, have lightning talks by 4 enterprise leaders that are great in helping build the DASA ecosystem as we have it right now. We have Willem van Bork from Global Knowledge, Julian Stevens from RMIT University in Australia, Akhil from Yayati, a company in India, and Kakuru, which is a professor of the Business Breakthrough University in Japan. So the careful observer will see that this is indeed all over the globe. We have experts and ambassadors and great enterprise leaders, and this is also a testament to I think the DASA mission and ambitions. We'll have a few minutes for each of them to give a lightning talk, after which we'll have a more elaborate panel discussion led by Deborah and me, in which we discuss several key topics regarding their expertise, but also the DASA world. In the last 15 minutes, because we end around 10:30 a.m. CET, I'll explain what we have in terms of ambitions for the DASA Enterprise Leadership Forum, including a call to action, because we need all of your contributions. Then we go to the next slide. Quickly, a similar format is for the afternoon session. As you can see, we have great speakers in that session as well. We have asked Willem to contribute twice, which is great that he's willing to do. But in addition to Willem van Bork, we have Esmond Siri from Norway, John Ruppel, who is one of our DASA ambassadors from the US, together with Liam Cassidy of Buller Group. He will share his DASA journeys. And we have Sebastian Laurijs from NXP Semiconductors. So not the smallest companies, I would say. So that will be great as well. Again, the recording and the slides of the afternoon session will also be shared with you. So you don't need to watch it live, but you could still register if you like. Okay, next slide. Before we have a quick update on the background of DASA, we would also like to know a little bit more what is your background, who we have in the audience today. So a few poll questions. This is the first one. Could you please, in the GoToWebinar software, select the answer that fits this question best? So what's your line of industry at the moment? Coco can probably see how many of you have already answered. And we have some quick results coming up. Yes, so we see that it's actually a nice mix. From IT service providers and education and consulting, a large majority, which is something we see often, and it helps greatly to spread the DASA word. And we have people from various industries as well, financial services, some in high-tech and manufacturing, and other. The GoToWebinar software limits the amount of options you could give, so it's not surprising that there are a few other options that fit your line of industry better. But it's nice to see that it's quite a diverse group we have, which could lead to interesting questions from the audience as well. And there's plenty of room for that. Please use the GoToWebinar chat window for this if you have a specific and there's also a question box that you could use to ask a question. We'll try to weave in the Q&A during this event, but rest assured, if there's no time, then offline we'll come back to your questions ASAP. So that brings us to the next slide. This is a quick slide introduction about DASA for some of you who have not heard about it before. I think what makes DASA unique compared to other initiatives, because it was not the first attempt to try to cover Agile and DevOps in a comprehensive way, is that we try to focus on a comprehensive framework of knowledge and skills that we believe individuals, but especially teams, should have and should grow towards to become high performing. And if you have high performing teams who are end-to-end responsible and are versatile and as autonomous as possible, then you have a big opportunity to build high performance IT organizations. So as in the left part, you see a small screenshot of the competence framework, which consists of 8 knowledge and 4 skill areas. And what was nice to see by our first ambassadors and forerunners and specialists to be liked a lot is that this framework helps to understand all the various knowledge and skills you would sooner or later encounter if you're embarking on a DevOps journey. So this helps as a compass, more or less, to understand what you need to invest in. And it's not that everybody needs to be an expert in everything. Here you see an example on the right side that in a typical team, you have, of course, people who are more expert in some parts. But as a team, you can make it a goal to be as round and as versatile as possible to become more effective and increase your performance. That was one of the new things 4 years ago when we brought this to market. And we have since then trained many people who did a DASA certified fundamentals course or more in-depth specify and verify course, and later we started with other types of programs that Dimitri will share more about. But we also saw that digital transformations and DevOps transformations in particular were constrained or slowed down a bit because a lot of managers and senior management was not fully on board or on par with this philosophy. So we thought it was very important to also bring more enterprise leaders to the table. And that's what we that's what our ambition with the ELF is. So that's the next slide. We came up 2 years ago with the DASA Enterprise Leadership Forum to create also a community of practice and empower those people with among which thought leaders and practitioners in all kinds of roles, bring them together, help them learn from each other, share stories from the trenches, and also basically support each other in their transformations, who are all very unique and can basically benefit from not trying to find all the things out by yourself. Next slide. We have one more slide about the DASA ELF. Like I said, it's really all about learning and sharing, and this global event is a testament to that today, and it's nice to see many of you in the call. So I will come back to that in a later stage, but the idea we have and ambition is that this event is just an example of the various ways we can use to actually connect to each other. And the pandemic has taught us that all kinds of virtual ways to meet are actually working to a certain extent, but we all hope, of course, to be able to travel around the world and meet each other more frequently in person as well. So let's hope that will be in the near future possible again, and we can broaden the set of tactics we use. But the whole point is that we, in an informal, community-driven way, grow the DASA ecosystem, and I need your help for that. Next slide, please. So this is basically let's say, first introduction to DASA and the DASA ELF. Before we continue, it's also interesting to know what is your core expertise and background. Are you primarily from operations? Are you in development? Do you have a business or management or leadership role? Are you from the testing Q&A background, or is there another expertise area that you would choose mostly applying to you? Gives us an idea what kind of folks we have in this session. Okay, just choose which comes first to mind, I would say. You will not be punished if you have it wrong. So, Coco, what's the score? Oh, wow, this is cool. We, of course, hoped to see something like this, because this shows that the majority, the big majority of this group today consists of people in somehow a business management leadership role, which is, of course, a core audience we want to address in the enterprise leadership forums. So great to see that, and hopefully the program we have for you today is very appealing. I think we believe it is. Thanks, Coco. Then, with only a few minutes delay, we'll quickly go, I think, to Dimitri, who could share a few things about what we already did in the last 4 years. And there's actually reason to celebrate, right?
Absolutely, Rik. And very exciting to see also so many business leaders representing in the meeting. So, but first of all, Coco, can you give me the next slide? I mean, 4 years, that happened so fast, and I think that's true for many of us. I think it was back in March that Deborah wrote me a message and about, you know, it's our anniversary is around the corner, and here we are. You know, it's almost 4.5 years. So when we started in 2016, we actually kicked off with 70 forerunner companies, 2 exam institutes, a handful of ambassadors, some training partners, and courseware partners. And I would like to give you a bit of an update on what happened over the last 4 years, and also a bit of an outlook. Rik asked me also try to move forward and see what the future is in mind for us. So let's look a little bit at that community side. Also the thought leadership. What is the impact of what we are doing together with our partners? Products and certifications and the updates that happened and how it will evolve. And let's look at global adoption, because those 4 elements are critical for us, for ourselves, to measure, you know, our impact and if we are on the right track with our communities. So let's talk about the community and give you a gist of what's happening. And when the next slide will be loading. So from, as I explained, from the get-go, it was built on active involvement and interaction with the community. And if you look at how that developed, I think we hit the right chord, because we clearly see an increased engagement and support and knowledge sharing about many of our stakeholders. So the first thing to look at is the ambassadors. We are extremely proud that we have a very strong and loyal representation around the world from very knowledgeable ambassadors, and some of them are also representing today. But there's also another thing which is important to us, and that is the number of followers, and many of them very active on our social media, because they are reading, they are tweeting, they are driving force of our global community. And it was only a couple of, let's say, weeks ago that we surpassed the 20,000 followers. The next thing which is important to mention is a new kind of community that we see engaging around specific products. So the DASA DevOps Coach, which will be addressed in a bit more detail today as well, has also evolved into a dedicated community for DevOps Coach practitioners, as well as DevOps Coach trainers, which was relatively new for us to facilitate. But there's so much value in this role, as we see during the session, that it automatically happened. The next thing is about the influencers, which is a brand new role that we put in place. And we have all influencer entourage with an incredible group of experts who support DASA and our vision, and they create very relevant links to other communities and also help us push the boundaries. But last but not least, today's event is also about getting people together, and this event is about getting people together on the enterprise level and trying to get the stories told about what is happening in these enterprises, what needs to be done, and how can we share these stories to create more value for each other. So but on top of that, there's much more happening. We have a global network of learners. Very excited to see those testimonials also on the DASA website. We have communities in the regions, like you find in front of you. We have an active community in India, and as we have in other parts of the world as well, with speakers and experts from top organizations. So we have an editorial board, so there's a lot happening in different things. And one message as well for all of you who are here today, you can join us, you can engage with us, you can help us in many different capacities. So feel free to reach out to us, because we welcome everyone and are counting on your input. Let's look at the next topic, which is some progress on thought leadership. So when we started with our competence model and our principles, we felt that we had something special in our hands, and I think time has proved that it was actually the case, because how we measure ourselves in thought leadership is about creating value for enterprises and learners. And how do you measure that? I mean, we typically measure that by a number of publications or references, or I mean, you have to be recognized by experts or by enterprises in the world who like to talk about what you're offering to the market. Some of those are in front of us. We also have Asmund in our, I think the second session for today. He wrote a fantastic piece based on research and a solution that they did on using the DASA competence model for outsourcing and sourcing projects in the DevOps world. But you also see leading universities like RMIT also presenting today, building their solutions on top of DASA. Organizations like Allianz, you'll find a screenshot there as well, who are basically building their strategic plans on top of the DASA principles that we designed in 2015, 2016. So that's a very interesting thing for us to measure and see. It also is a fact that things create value for that audience. The next thing is that on a product level, when we started out, we were very, I think, unique at that point of time. We said, yeah, we need to develop T-shaped professionals or pie-shaped professionals, where you have more than your own specialty and have an understanding of, let's say, the other surrounding knowledge and skill domains, talk the same language to be more effective as a team. And this is still, well, so relevant, maybe more relevant than ever in today's world. So if you give me the next slide, Coco, please. So if you look at our, let's say, competence model, which clearly defines those 12 domains, and we bring you, get you familiar in specific levels on all those 12 domains, making you a T-shaped profile. You also find the certification model on the right, the scheme, where we fine-tuned the certifications, but also did a lot in the recent months and recent years. So we brought the DASA DevOps Coach to market. I'll spend a few more words on that. But we also started the full development with our courseware partners and authors for the DASA DevOps Leader, which is very important because it's the completion of our leadership program. But also on fundamentals levels, a lot happened also by bringing master classes, a brand new concept to the market, where we have the fundamentals supplemented by fantastic sessions by guest lectures from masters around the world. If you look at global adoption, that's the final pillar that I would like to address briefly. I think it's very interesting to see that when the pandemic hit us in March, I think it only took us 2 weeks to recalibrate and basically activate the new plans. And Coco, if you can bring the next slide, it will be fantastic. And I think one of the best examples for us and the resilience of our, let's say, ecosystem and partner model is probably the conversion of the DASA DevOps Coach program, which was built as a 3-day back-to-back program, intense classroom program. We converted it in, well, I think in 1 to 2 months in a completely virtual instructor online program. And even I had also my doubts if we were able to make it as effective in that classroom program. And it worked out incredibly well. And so looking back, it was a great thing to happen. But I'm proud to see this happening across the board, and training partners adopting new ways of learning, courseware partners coming up with new innovative and very effective learning solutions that can be used in a more virtual instructor-led world, and that's very interesting for us to see. My expectation as well, and then I'll jump to the next slide, is that I do expect this to stay. So why I expect this virtual learning to stay? Because the learners, they really like it across the world. Experience are extremely good, success rates are good, and I think it will remain very popular. So on the coach program as well, talking about relevance, talking about thought leadership, I think the timing was spot on, which was very beneficial because it was our community who told us prioritize DASA DevOps Coach on top of the DevOps leader. So we put all our effort in getting that product out there with our partners, and that is also paying off. You see lots of organizations paying big sums, developing coaching competences, hiring DevOps coaches, and it's very good for all of us to see that we are in the midst of this wave of well, actually initiating and developing this important role. There's another thing on the next slide, which is also a new concept, probably also triggered, encouraged by the pandemic, and those are our master classes. So we are engaging with top gurus around the world who actually provide guest lectures on top of virtual instructor-led DASA DevOps fundamentals. It's from a format perspective not exciting, because it's a kind of blended form and you add additional levels of expertise. But for a learner, this is incredible, because you connect theory, concepts from failures and learnings on the ground, and this is something also from an Outlook perspective that you will see happening more and more around the world. So with my last slide in front of me, Coco, so we're very excited. Connect with us. There will be a lot happening on the ELF Enterprise Leadership Forum. Connect with Rik, Deb, and the team, but also connect on other things. And I'm heading back to Rik and team, and I'll talk to you later.
Thanks, Dimitri. This brings us to a poll question, the last one of today. We are interested to also hear what would you see as your biggest challenge at the moment. Our assumption is that you have at least one of those 4 listed topics, and if not, please choose other, so we have a bit of an idea what is at the moment in your organization the biggest challenge you face. So let's see what is our score here. Oh, wow. I'm not that surprised, to be honest. I still see many organizations that they are struggling with a transition to an introduction to Agile and DevOps practices, which is mostly the first question. From a technology point of view, outdated infrastructure and architecture is limiting or hampering many transformations. But we see more and more that the knowledge and skills, and it's great to see that as well, unfortunately, that this is a big challenge for many of you. And we have great panelists who could share their stories and their maybe their antidotes for this challenge in a second. But especially organizational cultural issues and the role leadership plays, which is by far the biggest one, well, is again a testimony to the fact that we need to organize ourselves better as a leadership community. So let's continue to do that, which brings us to the next part of this event. We could of course say a lot about our enterprise leaders in the call today, but it would be much more fun if they would introduce themselves quickly. So we give them the floor, a few minutes each, to let them share a few things about themselves before we dive into the panel that Deborah and I are leading. So Willem, could we invite you to start with introducing yourself in a few minutes?
Yes, thank you very much, Rik, and thank you all for attending this session. To be honest, it's really an honor to be part of this panel. So again, thank you very much for this opportunity. To me, this already proves what the value of DASA is to me. It's a community. We share knowledge, we share practices, we share experiences, and that is what makes DASA extremely valuable. Something about me. I've been with Global Knowledge for about 17 years already in various roles, and my current role is Business Development Manager for soft skills and agile training solutions, including DevOps. And I can say that DevOps is actually the most important part of my training curriculum. What we actually do with Global Knowledge is we deliver what technology and business processes can't, and that is skills. I think that skills are the key limiter, and on the other hand, the key enabler for organizational success. So that is why our slogan is, we build skills to enable success. Global Knowledge is the largest worldwide provider of IT training and business training. And of course, we are well known for the classroom training and certifications we provide. But yeah, because of the pandemic, we see an increasing demand for virtual classroom training and for e-learning nowadays. So instead of having people come to our premises, we bring the classroom to you and to your homes.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, at Global Knowledge, we've been a forerunner in the DevOps training area for I'd say the past 5 years. We deliver tailored training solutions, DevOps certifications, assessments, all around DevOps. And what I can say about the DASA initiative is that it really helped us to grow our worldwide DevOps training offering, because I think DASA offers exactly what organizations who are in the middle of their digital transformation, what they need, and that is guidelines and principles, and more importantly, community. So that were a short couple of words about myself.
Thanks. Great to have you, Willem, and looking forward to the panel discussion, because we can dive in a bit more on what you see in the market. Let's continue quickly to the next expert we have on board, Julian. Thanks for being here as well. Could you share a few things about yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Rik and Willem and Deborah. Hi, everyone. My name is Julian Stevens, Product Director at RMIT Online, based in Melbourne, Australia. RMIT is actually the largest university in Australia. So while we've got campuses in Vietnam and Singapore, we've got 2 rather empty campuses here in Melbourne at the moment, thanks to the current lockdown phase. But RMIT Online, we're obviously the clue's in the name there. We're the online arm of the university. So as well as focusing on actually kind of world-leading student experiences across our postgraduate and undergraduate degree programs, over the last 2.5 years, we've been building out sort of really focusing on skills and short courses and micro-credentialed short courses. Really focusing on the kind of digital business, that's the nexus of digital business and design across technology. You know, if we look at, you know, the digital skills gap here in Australia, similar to everywhere in the world, but you know, in Australia, you know, we're, you know, just like everywhere else, we're kind of, you know, trying to, you know, we're at a critical point for skills development in this sort of digital space. Deloitte have kind of predicted that there's, you know, 121,000 jobs are going to be created thanks to technology over the next 6 years. The universities here will only probably create around about 38,000, 39,000 IT graduates domestically. So we've got this gap of 83,000 jobs that we need to kind of skill up the workforce, you know, not just from our university sort of focus for degrees, but also through upskilling and reskilling. So through the future skills short courses that, you know, based around sort of micro-credentialed sort of learning experience, we, you know, really the sort of heart of RMIT as a university is its connection to industry and its connection to job outcomes. So we've co-created currently 38 courses in the last 2.5 years, really focusing on some of those core skills within digital transformation, from, you know, kind of things that everyone will be aware of, you know, agile courses. We've got product management skills, as well as some of those skills around design thinking, UX, and digital marketing. And then we also sort of focus on emerging technology, blockchain, IoT, VR, AR. Really trying to, you know, focus on specific skills across the workforce, and with that sort of passion for, you know, industry connection into those experiences and that co-creation, we look for partners, and we've got a partner network of over 70 organisations, including, you know, the AWSs of the world, Salesforce, Slack, and IBM, but also for local sort of digital leaders, you know, realestate.com and Culture, some of the sort of local organisations that we work with. So, you know, clearly for us, you know, looking at different skills areas, and we sort of identified this kind of opportunity for or this need for DevOps upskilling, around about, you know, 2,500 jobs advertised pre-COVID on our job board here, which by Australian standards is quite significant, maybe not in places such as India and other parts of the world, but clearly a strong need for this sort of focus on DevOps. We spoke to DASA, and Deborah was visiting Melbourne, I think it was the beginning of last year, spoke to us about the framework. And just the exciting thing for us was how she loved Melbourne. I think she's coming back when the flights are back. But really the kind of, you know, the approach that I think that DASA took to thinking about DevOps, you know, where we were looking was not to build a technical course, DevOps course for hands-on tools. You know, AWS have those, Microsoft have those tool-based DevOps courses. Where we really wanted to focus was on, you know, how you really sort of tap the sort of business outcomes and success, how you establish DevOps as a culture and practice, and through that competency framework that you know, it's at heart DASA, I think really sort of connects into our view of the world of connecting different roles within an organization into these different skill sets. And so we built the course with DASA content and also with local with partners here at ThoughtWorks and CMD. And launched it earlier in the year, and we've had a couple of runs of the course, and it's gone fantastically well. So that's a bit about RMIT. Just quickly on me. So I'm sort of product director of a kind of online arm of a university. My background is actually in development and technology. So you know, back in the late 90s, I was developing CD-ROMs in Delphi back in the day. Moved into kind of web development through sort of enterprise Java, data enterprise data companies. So I've kind of seen, you know, as a developer through to managing teams, managing platforms, project manager, then, you know, the last 12 years into product management and product leadership. I've kind of experienced the kind of highs and lows of if you like, traditional enterprise operations and development, as well as prior to RMIT Online working for a company called Envato, who manage a series of sort of marketplaces which are fairly large globally, kind of the eBay of web templates and design and templates as a marketplace. And you know, they, you know, as a startup, you know, they're sort of a huge startup success story in Australia. but they really have what I call a mature DevOps culture. It's as a product manager coming in from more of an enterprise background to really see what that culture brings and to understand the benefit of continuous delivery of as a product manager on my first day joining a team who there was no BA, there was no tester, the developers were what I thought were a bit loose at the time, just deploying code, but then to understand that and understand how the effect of that on the business and the technology was exciting. So kind of brought that passion and influenced the need to build this course, and obviously finding DASA and the content was fantastic for us at RMIT.
Nice. Well, thanks for sharing. It shows your passion for the subject, and it makes sense that you're here. And again, glad that you could join us.
And when we could again, I'm coming, Julian. When we can fly again.
You'll be welcome. Once we can move. I can't go more than 5 kilometers from my house at the moment, so I'm looking forward to just going around the corner, to be honest.
Yeah, let's hope so. It can happen soon. Let's move on quickly to Akhil. Very familiar to the DASA ecosystem already. Welcome as well. Could you share a few things, Akhil?
Yeah. Good morning and good afternoon, or maybe some evenings as well. This is Akhil. Interestingly, I got my name when I was working in Europe. People are not able to pronounce my name Akhilesh. So what is the best? And they said, Akhil sounds good, we can pronounce it. And I turned, and I love that name as well. My journey with DevOps started way back in 2012, when we organized the first DevOps Day in India, Bangalore. And I think I fall in love with it. And a couple of years down the line, I gave up my corporate role and pursued the DevOps journey, along with other things in the leadership space. And ITpreneur was partner in crimes for our work in India and across the globe for various programs, including architecture and the other technology certifications. And moving out of the corporate was challenging. How do you blend leadership with the technology? I love technology, so as the leadership roles. And the blending with the humanity is a challenge. For the IT people, they only understand what the technology means, what the systems means, what exactly the processes and tools are. But the interesting part of it, the people, we miss out. And I started my journey in Australia to become a coach, so internationally certified coach from one of the Australian institute, and got my certification in 2014. And while I was going through the program, I decided I'm going to quit my IT roles, which I am carrying. And so what am I going to do? Let's decide. Interestingly, when I picked up this, I felt that we need to bring some of the psychological interventions. And at that point happened that I joined another group called Transactional Analysis to become a therapist. And the learning started. The adult develop, like child development, there is adult development theories, which is very much required for the people to acquire. Apart from the philosophies from the European continents, from the North American contents, and of course the India. So I built up the 20th century philosophies about the humanity. How exactly you can bring them? How do you bring the somatic into that? How do you bring the biology in our learnings? Because we learn from the biology of our own beliefs, from our body. And that gave me a blending all of those philosophies and methodologies with the technologies like Lean, Agile, and the DevOps. And I keep on developing the solutions around it. And I very interestingly found that people, after blending this, they cry in our programs. They feel the first time emotions they have not felt yet. And that's very interesting for me, that how people do not feel about it. They just talk about the thinking part of it, but not the feeling part of it. And I believe the DevOps is a part of the feeling as well, so as is the thinking. And therefore, it brings the curiosity that how do you bring the people, the emotions part of it, the blending with the IT systems and the processes which we talk about. And while doing this, it is also to look at how the world is changing. So we came out, there is a value-driven architecture, which is becoming a very powerful tool. I said, no, just not the value-driven architecture, but look at from the systemic view of it. And when we talk about the systemic view, we started looking the 4 part of the DevOps, DASA, which we talk about the culture, the organization, the process, and the systems and the tools. They all blend together to create a systemic value-driven architecture. It must be driven by individuals to the organization. Individuals are so much important as the organizations, and how do you bring them multi-level thinking into value-driven architecture? How do you create the human-centered? We find that a lot of people are working for days together, and that's not the right way to deliver values to the organization. How do you create the human-centered approach to software development rather than looking at anything else? And then we're creating a transformation journey, operating systems, I call it as all that put together. It must be data-driven. It had to be measurement-driven. If it is not, we'll not be able to thrive in the changing world like COVID or the complexities which is throwing around us through the technologies and other areas. So that's what I believe going forward we can do through DASA. The framework which Rik and others have put together allow us to take that systemic approach to value-driven architecture with all these things put together. And I believe me or not, last 1 year, I think my 80% of time goes into just working with the DASA community across the globe and bringing the value to the organization with whom we work.
Oh, great, great to hear that. And maybe we can touch upon during the panel a bit more about this this journey you sketched, because I believe it's a very valuable approach to connect leaders worldwide, and also connect some dots, perhaps that are indeed outlined in the competence framework, and you obviously build on top of that, which is very valuable. That's great. But for now, let's first go to the last panelist before we can have a group panel discussion. That's Kakuru. Thanks for joining as well out of Japan. Could you say a few words to introduce yourself?
Thank you, Rik and Deborah, and thank you everybody for joining the forum, and thank you DASA for giving an opportunity to be a part of this. My name is Kakuru Ikubo. I'm a trainer at the Business Breakthrough University. Many of my clients are Japanese manufacturing companies, or pretty much Japan is all about manufacturing. It's come from automotive or electrical devices. Japan was really big up until maybe early 90s. 37 Japanese entities are listed as a top 50 worldwide revenued companies. But if we look at now, if I see the statistics like 2 years ago, only one Japanese entity is listed as a worldwide top 50 big revenue companies. So as I see, Japanese organization is we are kind of left behind, because maybe in a big picture, we were not aligned with the market needs or market change. So I met with DASA. We need to change the way we work. We need to collaborate more. We need to engage more. We need to break the siloed company. So the Japan really did a good job on the standardization and creating the great manual to produce the safe and secure products. But the market needs is not that only anymore, and it's all about more and more, and then changing the rate of speed is faster. So what DASA brings as a competency model and principles should help not only the Japanese entities, but also the worldwide entities to grow more and bring value more. So Really looking forward for this forum, and then we all can learn and share. And thank you very much.
Well, thanks to you, Kakuru. Well, Deb, I think you are waiting for quite some time already to dive in to hear more about what those great experts have to share, right? I think
you know me so well. Yeah, absolutely.
You sit on your hands for quite a while, but the floor is yours now. So please do your thing.
I want to thank each of you, and I'm absolutely thrilled to have this opportunity to do kind of more of a deep dive into your stories. But before I get started, I want to ask each of you a specific question. To start with, I'll start with you, Akhil. What is the role and the value of DevOps in terms of building high-performance IT organizations?
I think we need to look back the way we have operated so far, and what I found, Rik, that the challenges moving from the waterfallish kind of a thinking to coming down to the DevOps, right? In the past, we have always looked at IT as a part of cost organization, that there is no meaning to the IT, but they are just the cost, right? Costs for them. Now the change which has come in the recent past, the IT has become the value creation for the organization and for their customers. And now when DevOps comes in many organizations which I have worked across the globe as a transformation, found that it connects the developed business to the IT. It brings that togetherness. They start working together and find that the value the IT is providing. So the shift is happening, the IT cost to the IT value creation organization. And that's how it is going. And DevOps, which is also creating the relationship between the business to the different entities in the IT itself and to your customer, I believe DevOps is becoming the conduit for the value creation for the organizations and creating the power for the customers with whom they interact.
Great.
And that's my take through of the DevOps journeys.
Thank you, Akhil. And Willem, same question. What is the role and the value of DevOps in terms of building high-performance IT organizations?
Well, Deborah, I think that over the years, as Akhil mentioned, that corporate IT has had a mixed reputation of walls of confusion. And on one hand, IT has always been the department where cool and innovative stuff happens. But on the other hand, IT can be notorious for being an expensive cost center that sometimes lacks alignment with the business. So I'd say that in this digital era, or you may call it the digital world we live in, I think to survive as an organization and to be successful, IT should be the strategic enabler or differentiator that helps you to stay ahead of the competition. And I think that is exactly what DevOps is about, because I think DevOps helps to nurture an effective culture, drives practices that increase flow, breaks down silos and breaks down walls of confusion. And in return, I think what you get is an increased organizational effectiveness.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Julian, same question. What's your view?
I think, for me, as we sort of broader agile transformations and the kind of goal that can bring, breaking down the kind of silos and kind of the empowerment and autonomy that goes with the culture around this, I think is, yes, absolutely. Technology, the value comes in largely from, enabling people to do great things. And I think, again, from sort of my previous experience in another life of kind of the method of developers handing over to teams and going through very sort of heavy gates and the delays that brings, that kind of that kind of traditional way of working, yes, it puts control around it, but control doesn't give you innovation, it doesn't give you doesn't get the best out of people, I don't think. Whether someone's whether a developer can have as good an idea about a design system as a designer can have about a product, and so really kind of bringing that collaboration together. Yes, the tools and the kind of the hands-on aspects of what that culture brings, but I just think it's the kind of gold in the cultural piece, and to me that's the value that any business will get, and it's obviously amplified. The benefit is amplified during a time when things were changing rapidly enough pre-pandemic in organizations, and from a workforce and digital perspective, things aren't going to slow down. Things are only going to move faster, and DevOps enables businesses and employees to kind of react more quickly to that, I think.
Great, thank you. And so, Kakuru, I'm actually going to ask you a different question. What are the what contributions can DASA bring as we focus on building a global enterprise leadership community?
Yes, first of all, like others are saying, the DASA is community driven. So it's not forcing everyone to follow the rules or anything. And it's always bringing the new information and new technology so that every organization who's in the DASA can share and learn and keep learning and keep sharing to align with the new market needs and bring the new value to the market. And that's the value of the DASA.
Great, thank you. And Julian, I have a different question for you. It seems that a driving factor for business leaders today is upskilling and reskilling their IT engineers and their teams to get ready for the digital world. What do you see that's affecting the training and the learning and development?
Yeah, I think for I think it's critical to have think about upskilling, reskilling, training. Even have a strategy around it. It's all very well to train a team up in agile or DevOps, but the world, everything's moving quickly. Everything's evolving. New technologies coming out, new ways of working. It's constantly evolving. So as organizations and enterprises go through, experience their digital transformation, move beyond that, having a kind of, I guess, a holistic view of the skills needed from a workforce. I think it's less around saying, hey, here's a team, we're going to put them on an agile course, and we've now implemented agile. It's a lot more about saying, well, here's a team. Yes, of course, we need some core skills and some core training here. But again, the benefit to me of a developer or an operations personnel, whoever it may be, maybe under having a deep skill in design thinking or user experience design. You start blending these skills, and again, that goes back to the heart of, I think, of a successful transformation. It's less around identifying what training a team needs or a function needs, and saying, right, what does this individual need to get the best out of them and allow them to do their best work. And that requires access to a broad range of learning experiences, whether that's online, in person, whether it's a 6-week course, a smaller micro credential, or a more formal degree. So I really think more and more the framework for skills development with any enterprise is such a critical factor of successful transformation now, and it's recognized as such.
Great, thank you. So Willem, I'm going to come back to you because I really want to hear more about your story. So my first question for you is, why do you think the DASA learning programs are so successful in the market? And what kind of feedback are you getting from your customers and from your learners that are in the classroom? Are you on mute? I can't hear you.
Here I am. Thanks for the question. Well, I think one of the key success factors of DASA and what makes the DASA certifications and training so great is that there is a tight alignment between what the market actually needs and what DASA has to offer. But I've been a salesperson for more than 15 years, and I can tell from experience that there usually is a huge gap between what the client actually needs and what they're asking for. So for lots of learning solutions that I come up with that include DASA, DevOps training and certification, the original question usually was something like, well, I need training on automation, or I need training on tooling, or we're in an agile transformation. What kind of certifications can you deliver? From a people, process, technology perspective, clients usually want to talk about things that are safe, like technology and processes. They're tangible, safe to talk about. But yeah, they also want a training solution to be about just that, the processes, the frameworks, and the technology. And they tend to avoid the people part of the solution. And I think that is the area with the biggest challenges and the greatest opportunity. And well, the great thing about the DASA training programs is that they do cover processes and technology and automation practices and lean and metrics and so on and so on. But more importantly, they also cover the human factor that sets these programs apart from other training programs. Topics like behavior, DevOps culture, team building, positive influence, leadership skills, coaching skills. They're all there, and that's, yeah, the DASA curriculum covers them all. And I think it's the holistic approach to all those subjects that makes our clients value the DASA trainings program.
Great, thank you. Another question: what do you see as the future trends happening in terms of training agile DevOps skills in organizations?
Well, one funny trend I see is that I have the feeling that the decision-making process around training and personal development within organizations is changing. While traditionally you ask your manager for approval, or your manager decides for you what to do, or the HR department has a say in who attends which training, but I see an increasing trend of individuals and teams deciding for themselves as they become more mature and self-organizing. And the second trend I observe is the tendency to look inside your organization for skills and knowledge, instead of attending long and extensive multi-day classroom training sessions. And I think that is one of the reasons why the role of the DevOps coach is becoming increasingly important, because the coach can be a significant source of knowledge within an organization, and it can also help teams and individuals to grow and personalize their learning experience by, well, being a coach, but also by being a great mentor and tutor. So my expectation is that DevOps coaches will become more influential in enabling team development, management development, and personal development within organizations. And by the way, for those teams and individuals that are becoming increasingly self-managing, I think the DASA DevOps Competence Quick Scan is a great tool, and we use it a lot in DevOps training programs.
Great. So I just want to ask Kakuru a question, because what you bring up makes a lot of sense. So Kakuru, when you listen to what Willem just shared with us, due to the cultural aspects and differences in Japan, is it the same thing that you're seeing, or is it different?
Well, first of all, in the big picture, as William's saying, that the DASA training brings a comprehensive area of knowledge and skills, and that is the biggest value. And in terms of the culture-wise, I think Japan is a bit different, because from, say, Toyota Production Way, it's the source of agile, and we should be able to do it, but somehow it changed, and then organization became siloed, and the beauty, what's good to work is just to comply with the rules and what's decided at the beginning, but it's not anymore. And it's okay to make mistakes, you know, but still it's not. the value is to do incident management and reduce the number of the change, but it's not, it's changing. So that Japan started to adopt agile or DevOps way of working, but it's still kind of, the rate is slower than the other countries. But in the nature, in Japanese way of working, it should be there. So we should be able to adapt faster than the other countries, because we supposed to work together and we know it, but somehow we can't do it anymore. So.
Yeah,
So you should color a bit more in between the lines, perhaps, in Japan. Huh?
Pretty much.
yeah. So Willem, back to you. What do you consider the importance of DASA certifications? I mean, significantly in light of the paradox of certifications don't change culture, and the importance of leadership.
Well, I think that let me see. The IT people, I think they love certifications, or maybe they're forced to love certifications, but lots of things depend on certifications for IT people. The right certifications, they may get you a new job, or they may give you a salary raise. My girlfriend works at a company that gives you a 50 euro per month raise when you obtain a new certification. So certifications are important to IT people. Also, some certifications, well, they determine whether you requalify for vendor benefits, and if you don't renew your certification in time, your company gets in trouble. So yeah, from that perspective, certifications in general are very important, but most certifications certify that you're a specialist in a certain knowledge area. For instance, a hardware product or a software product, or any best practice framework. Yeah, and the difference with DASA certifications is that they are not linked to a specific hardware or software vendor or to a commercial body of knowledge. And the nice thing is, DASA certifications, well, they don't make you a specialist on one specific narrowed down topic. With DASA certifications, you can become what I would call a certified generalist. And I think this is a very important difference, because the role of the IT professional is becoming more generic. And I think it requires people to be more multi-skilled instead of highly specialized in one specific topic. And this is actually one of the most important DASA DevOps cornerstones, in my opinion. And that is the creation of cross-functional autonomous teams with professionals who have, like Dimitri said, T-shaped or pie-shaped skill profiles. And in DASA theory, cross-functional autonomous teams is in fact a core principle. Successful IT professionals, they do not only have a specialization, but they should have sub-specializations. I think DASA certifications are about knowledge and skills, but on the other hand also enable important principles like the autonomous teams one, to be a common ground and part of cultural values that organizations are looking for in their transformation. Can certifications change a company culture? No, I don't think so. But because culture is about people's behavior, and changing a culture is about, well, positively influencing people one at a time. But certifications can be very powerful as a tool for the leadership to enable a culture shift, because it guarantees that the team members have a certain amount of knowledge and common ground about underlying principles. Why are we changing at all? Right. It also gives the leadership a set of values that can make a cultural shift more purposeful. So again, certifications don't change cultures, but certified people certainly do.
So I'm going to ask Akhil, because I think he also has some opinions about leadership and cultural change from the Indian market perspective. Can you share a few of your thoughts on this question about the cultural and leadership changes and certification?
Yeah. Very interestingly, I think India has become the IT service hub for the world, if you will. So the culture out here is developing more and more products and services, right? So what we look at that, how can we deliver the software which the customer is asking for, right? And in that sense, when it comes to how do we filter it out, that who are the right people who can join the workforce to deliver for their customers? And therefore, they look for market validated, industries validated certifications to qualify, to make sure that yes, you are the right person to work along with us, right? So the certifications are looked at here as to get an entry into the job, to do the right kind of a work. Yeah? And when they assess the certifications, that the shift is also happening out here, that it should not be only the IT related, but also had to have some other skills which is beyond the IT. How do we work with each other? Because in India, there are multi-vendor approaches are coming in. So how do you work with the other vendor who is delivering a solution for that? And therefore, the soft skills becomes very important part of it, right? How do you collaborate with others? It becomes very important. How do you communicate with others? Which becomes very important. And very interestingly, that adds up to what we are doing as a part of the DASA, right? We are not talking about just the IT systems and the processes, which is predominant concepts in the DevOps trainings, but we bring those aspects. And therefore, the certifications of DASA in India, I'm seeing the value. Some of the consulting organizations which we have worked with, they also talk about, for example, the PwC, we delivered the DevOps fundamentals, and it was a game changing for them.
I love that. But I'm going to stop you for a sec, and we're going to come back to you on that, because I think the points that you're making in terms of leadership and the things that you're seeing are incredibly important. But I want to get back to Willem just for another question. Willem, I know that you're currently working on with a leading telco provider in Belgium. Can you share with us a bit about what is the focus and why you're so enthusiastic about it?
Yeah, well, it may be because it is a classic case of a situation where something happened like I've just explained. The client asks for one thing, but in order to figure out what they really need, we really had to dig deeper. At first, we were asked to come up with a training program around automation as a topic. And it evolved around the technical aspects of automation, like the use of tooling, topics like Ansible, PowerShell, and so on. And thank God that they, on a side note, asked, can you also spend 1 or 2 hours on the concepts and the backgrounds? And that was my cue to, well, actually dig deeper. And after several conversations, we convinced them that concepts and backgrounds are actually the core of what they required, and that their need for automation and automation training is really, well, symptomatic, a symptom of what they actually need, and that was investing in automation training alone. That would be an investment without capitalization, unless they would focus on their real challenges that included culture, lack of flow, the need to collaborate, and the urge to develop leadership. So we're now in the process of training and certifying more than 250 employees, while supporting the leadership in while leading the necessary cultural change, and at the same time pitching the DevOps Coach program in order to create internal change ambassadors. That's what I would call them, and they should secure anything that we achieve during the training sessions and what happens in between. So yeah, I think it's really nice to see that the client asks for one thing, but always an underlying cause that has to do with well, topics that are well, not really very safe to talk about. So I'm very glad that we could build trust and that they felt comfortable to actually talk about this to us.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you for sharing that great story. I think the traction that you're making sounds incredible, and I really appreciate the opportunity to ask you about that. I want to now go to Julian and ask a few questions about the Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology. How does an organization like RMIT in Australia effectively prepare their workforce for agile DevOps transformation?
In terms of, RMIT itself as an organization, we've got, we're a large, complex organization where we've got 10,000 plus employees, 90,000 students, as I mentioned. We've got technology, lots of technology platforms, lots of teams working. Some of them working in silos, some of them working more collaboratively. So really, what we, as well as focusing on these skills courses for obviously the broader workforce of Australia and skills development of Australia and beyond, we really try and feed these back into the organisation within RMIT, within RMIT Online, which we do work slightly separately. We have our own technology stack, so we can, we started from the sort of startup ground up in the last 2 years. So we've been able to kind of, I think, integrate a lot of those practices and cultures and frameworks into the way we work from day one. And so, as well as allowing us to, take a slightly, independent view sometimes of how we might develop courses or focus on skills areas, we can also, provide, influence back into a larger organisation about the way we work and some of the successes we've had in this kind of transformation ourselves. It's hard, as we know, but I think, feeding out our own, we feed our own courses back into our workforce. I think probably, more holistically, RMIT is as I sort of mentioned, our focus, we've got such a close connection to industry that the way we, prepare the Australian workforce or help to enable Australian workforce get through effectively these transformations, I think is, by really embedding, the experts that are working day to day in these areas into the learning experience. We deliver the courses through using industry mentors. So a couple of the local DASA trainers have been industry mentors. They don't teach, but they're mentoring and assessing the students within the courses and really bringing that lens of expertise from organisations. And I mentioned ThoughtWorks, who have been such a they're sort of leaders, one of the sort of leaders in Australia in terms of helping organisations through these types of transformations. So the experience they bring, this isn't from a textbook, it isn't from an academic perspective, it's very much from, consultants who are out there day to day working within the challenges of trying to take an organisation through a transformation. So that focus on skills taught by or mentored, or bringing that industry content and teaching into the course. And then, just to touch on the certification piece is quite interesting for us as well, because then, connects a little bit into micro-credentials and what's happening within the education industry globally around, focusing on a micro-credential approach to recognising learning, which is very much based on recognition of a skill rather than necessarily an academic transcript. Again, industry needs to be very important in there if it's a skill related to industry. So having that micro-credential represented as a digital badge, and connecting that back into the specific technology or association certification, whether that's DASA, we have courses that prepare students for AWS certification, Salesforce certification. So again, just a lifelong learning perspective in the professional workforce, ensuring that we're focusing on both the kind of whether it's the vendor certification or the association certification, but also a broader lifelong view of your learning and your skill set. That's kind of where we can really kind of influence how employers get visibility of these skills, which is the importance of both certification and micro-credentials as they're connected. So I think, for us, that's where we fit. Where ultimately as a university we really then fit is then to prepare the next generation the undergrads moving through degrees, not to come away just with a degree and a $50,000 debt, but also to come away with skills that prepare them for work. And that again is through evidence is going to be required there. It's not good enough to show us the degree certificate. If you can come out of university with a degree certificate, you've got AWS certification, Salesforce certification, you've got DevOps skills certified by DASA. These are all, that combination is going to get you a job. There's no doubt, compared to someone who's perhaps coming in with just a more traditional degree. So that's our kind of focus, and that's how we see things like certification industry connecting into this workforce transformation.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm getting all types of ding, ding, dings here that we're moving, running out of time, and we're coming to the end of the panel. And the one thing I want to say to the audience is that we have, if you can stay, we would appreciate staying around for a little longer. We still want the opportunity to talk to some of our great panelists that we haven't had a chance to go into depth with. Rik, what is your advice for how we should continue? Because we've had some good dialogue, but I want to make sure that we can continue and that the audience is aware that we will continue with the program.
Yeah, we can easily fill another hour, and it's great talk and great discussion. I like it a lot. I would say let's spend 5 to 10 minutes max, and hope that the audience appreciates it or will listen to the recording later. I hope for those who are still in the call that you keep hanging in there, because we have some general update on the DASA ELF after this as well. So hope that you can spend 10 minutes longer, and we have a few final questions that you can ask Deborah to the panelists then. But let's make it not longer than that.
Yeah, I promise that we'll move quicker, but I do want to have an opportunity to get to our other panelists as well. So why don't we continue, and you keep me honest, Rik, okay?
Yeah,
and for the audience, please stay with us, because we think that you'll really get the value by giving us another 10 or 15 minutes max, promise. Okay, with that, I would like to go to Kakuru, and I want to talk to you about does the Japanese culture and the way of working change the way Agile DevOps is being adopted, or how people are trained? What are those challenges that you see?
So as some of the panelists said, the market needs is kind of changing. The organization don't just want the certification itself. It's just a paper. They want employees to actually bring the value out of the training, which means that they can only do the programming or do network engineering, but also they're seeking for some of the business perspective understood to the employee. So they don't only do the job or the task that they are focused on, but also they want all the employees and engineers to understand the business side of the business perspective, what brings the new way of working, bring to the organization, as well as to the customer or maybe the users. So that's why Business Breakthrough is providing the DASA training. So not only the business management knowledge and skills, but also the IT skills and knowledge, and how to manage this DevOps way of working. And then this is really bringing the value to the organization and to send the employees to the training. So it's not only certification.
But are they also adopting new ways of new formats, things like virtual coaching, masterclasses, things like that? Is that also being embraced?
It is being embraced, and then it is catching up to it. But because of the governance and security concern, is really pulling the organization to move advanced. They also need to check the security concerns and the governance area of employees doing whatever they want to do, but they also need to set a line up to which level is okay to let the employees to do new things, but they want to control, and then that's the balance they are really struggling with.
Yeah. So when Julian was talking about the challenges that he was seeing and the way that they were addressing it at RMIT, did you hear similar things? Is it similar experiences with Breakthrough University as well?
Definitely, but our university already had the online training before, and then that's the one of the part that they differentiate from the other universities. However, though, we had some of the face-to-face training, and then the students who is familiar or comfortable with face-to-face training had some kind of an issue with adapting or enjoying the class in the virtual way, because you kind of have to wait others to finish talking, and then that brings a little bit of the time lag. And then some of the organizations don't let the students to use the tools that we really want them to use. So they can, they can't use the camera, they can't use the Google Drive, they can't use the mural, and then only the whiteboard, and that doesn't really, brings the real value of the training. So that's really, we are still facing how to let the organization adapt the new tools that can bring more value to the actual training, so that they get, not only the certification, just knowing the concept, but also they can apply the knowledge or skills that they acquire during the class to the actual workday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fantastic. Well, hint, hint, I know a platform company that has those type of things that could probably help you out. That said, I'd like to go to Akhil, because I want to speak to you. We were talking a bit about leadership and things that you see. I was hoping that you could expand a little bit more on your experience and share some of the highlights of the work that you've done in India, the interest that you see from leadership or C-level type executives, and the various type of DASA offerings that we have, and some of the trends that you're really seeing in the Indian market.
Very interesting. Couple of months back, when we were trying to reach out to the market for our coach program, being the part of the two industry groups, where one is called Industry Federation of India and another called Confederation of Indian Industries. Mm-hmm. And among them, there are a number of CTOs and CIOs, and 327 out of them, they accepted our interview as well as the questionnaire. And if you recall our scheme of the DASA certification program, so the bottom there is a fundamental. And all these leaders, when we went through them, and they said that 67% of feel that there's a common language for transformation is required. And it will be useful for the members to have the fundamentals knowledge of the DevOps. And therefore, they feel that 67% of them out of 327, that fundamentals are very important. Very interestingly, when we look at the professionals, they got excited about it. And overwhelmingly, they said 84% of the CXOs, they feel that the professional level of certification which we have put together is very interesting. 84% of them. And mainly the create and deliver, which is the 4 knowledge areas of our scheme, and then another specify and verify. They were overwhelmed by this. It's saying that 85% of their workforce belongs to these 2 categories.
Right.
And if you have these certifications, we are game for it. Indeed, one of the organizations, the CXO wrote to me, this is called the DevOps value proposition, what you guys have brought in. But now if we move to the leadership level, very interesting scenarios which has come, which is little disbursed about the thinking. the product management gets a very higher level of the percentage of theirs. 78% of think that we are not developing the products of future. We are managing, either we have the products of the past, or we are managing what we have right now. And what we require to have the product management who can think in the future directions, think of the futuristic product which is required to build into. And 78% of them think that product management is a very interesting things to do.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when it comes to the leadership, all of them think that they are the leaders, right? They don't require it. Okay, they don't require the leadership competencies to be built in. And 29% of them feel that yes, they require to enable themselves to do a better leadership roles in the changing world. But just imagine 61%, 10% of them said, I don't know. 61% of them, they said, you know what, we have enough of the leadership programs. Let's get into and do the dirty hands and things like that, right? But it changed again when it comes to the coaching part of it. They said that we do not have the real transformational coaches who can enable it, right? But less than the product owners, 60, if I'm not mistaken, 60, yeah, let me just check that. Yeah, yeah, very interestingly, right? 68% of them, they feel that they lack coaches, the transformational coaches, right? Who can work at transformation level, and they lack the team coaches.
Mm-hmm.
And that percentage become very different. It was a 78% to 61% of them, they said, you know what, we require a good amount of DevOps coaches or the transformational coaches who can lead these initiatives along with the product management.
Right.
Yeah. And that's an interesting point and exciting for us that we are able to provide that kind of a schema. And many of them have reached out to us that, when are you available? Indeed, we have a lot of inquiries coming from many of the organizations, CTOs, that when we can have a discussions to start our journeys with the 300 to 400 people together.
So this is a good segue for another question that I have for you. We're here as an organization to talk about the Enterprise Leadership Forum and going global. That's why all these kind people are staying longer to hear our stories and to hear from leaders from across the world. One of the things I'd like to know from you is if there was a way to mobilize and create an Enterprise Leadership Forum event in community in India. What are your thoughts and steps for that? What are ways that you think that could get started for folks that are also in other regions in terms of the Enterprise Leadership Forum? And Rik, I promise this is my last question, and then we're coming back to you.
Yeah, I will have to mute you otherwise. That's okay.
I know, I'm on dangerous territory here, everybody. So, Akhil?
That's a great question.
Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting questions, and indeed, Indians are looking forward people, you know, especially, and all the CXOs have their own mandate, and they actually they lack this kind of forum where they can discuss their challenges, where they can discuss about what's happening around them. Whenever we have the industry forum groups, hundreds of CXOs join and then listen to and learn from each other and all of that. So it's only necessity for us is that, hey, let's start. Let's put together our value propositions and it will work for us. So there is a only thing which is missing, Rik and Deborah, is that we have not provided a platform in India for the community to come together. So it's just saying that, hey, this is what exactly you can discuss this, you can bring all of your problems and we can put together some roadmap for you, you can discuss. I think it will just start it. They are very excited about it. And especially, there is another thing which I have to put together, especially when it comes from the outside the country, some kind of a concepts, right? Which is a global concept which comes to, I think we jump into. We try to grab those kind of things in the country.
Absolutely. And I thank you for that. And I want to thank each and every one of you amazing thought leaders, provokers, folks that love DASA and have invested so much in the celebration here of the 4-year anniversary and all the amazing work that you've done. I want to thank the audience that's still strong. 50 people still listening. With that, Rik Farenhorst, I hand it over to you. Thank you, guys.
Thanks again. It's great, and it's nice to see how well certain things of DASA resonate in the various geographies, but also how I think there's a central theme that we touched about, not only about learning development, but also the changing way how organizations the skills are needed to be trained, and also leaders need help and coaching to get that transformation going. I think that's a link to the ELF and its main ambition, as how I see it. We mentioned before the strength of DASA. It was reiterated by many panelists, is its community-driven nature. And we want to keep that and put it centrally to the DASA ELF as well, which basically means that I want to use this event also to ask for help from you guys in the call. And friends you know and colleagues you have, because we want to build a community-driven platform worldwide in which we keep sharing those stories as we've seen today in an effective way, and find all kinds of modern ways and methods and use them efficiently to build our body of knowledge. And to give you some idea on how the ELF would position itself in the DASA ecosystem as a whole, we have come up with this schematic, as you can see on the screen right now. On the top left, you see all kinds of knowledge that is currently already available for people new to DASA, familiar to DASA. We have more and more ambassadors and influencers, as Dimitri presented, who share their stories via white papers or blogs. On social media, it is really exploding in some occasions. It's really great to see how much we can realize together. On the bottom, you see various key people and roles we have identified to spread the word. Ambassadors, influencers. We have, of course, lots of people worldwide who have now at least one training they have been certified in, so it helps to speak the same language and also to spread the word. And we have many forerunner organizations that can help us produce new products and also sketch for us what is the latest trends and the biggest impediments, hurdles that we need to cover in the upcoming storytelling. And the DASA ELF is centered in the middle of it. We want to, on the one hand, use you on the ground together with help from the DASA team and me and colleagues from the Enterprise Leadership Forum to define what are the key topics that are interested in, for example, your geography or your company or your industry domain, that we can organize some things about. For example, an event. It can be a similar kind of event as this one, focus on specific topics. It can be a replica of this event for only a more local geography. It can be a series of white papers or blogs or other types of productized knowledge sharing driven initiatives. It can lead to tailor-made masterclasses, videos, or other kinds of ways to spread the word. My key ambition would be that we have local chapters. That's why it's listed on the right there. They're ELF chapters. We don't want to, in a centralized way, dictate how it should be, because the strength of DASA is that we do it from the community and for the community and by the community. So I need your help to know what is trending, what is interesting, what hasn't been solved yet, what people want to hear and share. So in the last part of this presentation, or in the next slide, we have a link. Go to the DASA website. Maybe we can show it, Coco. On the bottom of this slide, please go to the DASA DevOps Enterprise Leadership Forum webpage. There's a form on it, which you can use to subscribe right now, register for free. And at least I will reach out to you after you do that to have a small talk and discussion in what capacity you could help out. There's no strict format at the moment. So if you can go back, Coco, one more slide, I can summarize what's the intent. We have, I think, several ways you can be contributing to the DASA ELF. You can take a leading role for building a local chapter in, for example, a certain country. You can play a facilitative role to connect companies and experts or leaders you know to an already existing initiative. But it's very important to stress that it's also very interesting for you to be part of this. So what's in it for you? I think it will be a very visible role. We from the DASA team will make sure that we help you organize great stuff and produce great content. It's an interesting platform where you will meet great leaders that have a like-minded vision like yourself. So you get the opportunity to work with top experts as well. So it can be a good investment for your own brand and for your own development next to helping spreading the DASA words basically. So if you like this, and even if you're not very sure in what capacity you can contribute, please don't hesitate and sign up. And after this global event, we'll come back to you and discuss what we can do to grow basically the momentum that we are building steadily. That is my my call to action to all of you, and I hope it will lead to many more of those events as we saw here. I thank again the panelists that we have, and maybe Dimitri, Deborah, you could pitch in and share a few last words because I'm confident that you're happy with this event as well, right?
Yeah, from my perspective, number one, I just want to thank the audience that stayed with us to the end. I really appreciate that and engagement. And I can only say that there's so much happening out there today, and having an ability to work in a leadership capacity in your regions, helping share your knowledge and your passion for the things that you're doing is incredibly important. So again, think about it, reach out, and it's been a pleasure to have this time with you. Dan?
Yes, and thanks, Rik. Congratulations pulling this off, putting this together, designing this conference and this virtual meetup. I think it was very, very interesting and worldwide. We received a lot of questions as well. Some of them we were able to blend into the program. Some of them were answered, but I'll promise you we'll look at that again back to all of you. And thanks for the participation. Thanks for the experts. We will be back in the afternoon. And for those of you who are still in there, sign up, join Rik, Deb, and their team, and be part of this ELF. And I'll hand it back to you, but guys, fantastic job. Thanks.
Yeah, well, thank you, Dimitri, Deborah. I think we were a great team. Thanks all. I will not keep you any longer. We will share the recording and the slides. If you're interested in what the panelists of this afternoon have to share, please come back at 4 p.m. CET. And otherwise, talk to you offline soon. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye, guys.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you.